Are you afraid?
I can't believe I found this game from my childhood for so cheap. It wasn't anything I'd ever seen though. I believe it was some sort of special edition or demo. It was at a small throw-together flea market in one of its few game shops. Like any gamer, looking through older games, I flipped through all the games in the entire shop. I found the Super Nintendo section and began flipping through it. I didn't see anything other than every other game was FIFA or Madden games. I made my way over to the NES games and looked through them. They were all cheaper common games. I was beginning to lose faith in this game store. I found the Dreamcast section and began looking through the games. About the middle of the section, I found Sonic Adventure. I got excited to see this, especially for a small price. The game was $10, and I decided I wanted it. I already had this game on GameCube, but I wanted the original. Although this was the original game, it had a strange cover art to it. The cover art featured Sonic with his back turned and his fist in the air. I bought it anyway, I didn't care. The guy that sold it to me had a scowl on his face the entire time I was in his shop. But when I brought the game up to him, both of his eyebrows rose comically, and he took the money silently. I walked out, staring at my new game, and then put it in its bag. I walked around the flea market for a little bit longer, and then I went home. I couldn't wait to pop this game in. I finally got it home and realized my Dreamcast was in storage in the attic. I went up there and looked for it. Of course it would be a perfect world if I had just found it in a few seconds, but it took me 3 hours to search for all the boxes to find it. When I finally found it, I brought it down and hooked it up to my flat screen. I knew it wouldn't look as good, because all old game systems look bad on wide screens with high definition display. It's a thing. Finally, it was time to pop the game in and relive the nostalgic era. I used to play this game when I was younger, of course. I put the CD in the tray and turned the Dreamcast on. The Dreamcast made a horrible grinding and scraping noise as it started up. Almost sounded like a rusty robot arm. I figured that the noise was the eye moving around the dust that got in it. The Sega logo popped up on the screen, and it stayed there a while. I didn't really mind the wait. It was an old game system, and I'd not touched it for a long time. The Sega logo faded out, and then blew back up on the screen in red. I found this a little weird since I don't ever remember seeing that. The red Sega logo melted away like a liquid. Then I heard a faint scream, kind of like the Earthworm Jim games when he screams. I was so confused, but I was into seeing what was going to happen. The Sonic Adventure beginning cutscene began to play, but only it wasn't the beginning cutscene at all. The scene I was seeing felt empty. It had no music, and it was like a poorly rendered 3D model in-game graphics show. I saw Sonic running through a strange purple and red path filled with things flying at him. I took a closer look at what these projectiles were. They were hand-drawn cutouts of dead tails. I hit the start button, but it wouldn't let me skip. Sonic ran for a good 5 minutes, and then fell off the path he was running on. I heard another scream, but this one sounded realistic. It sent a chill down my spine. The title screen came up finally, and I hit start. The start screen allowed me to pick Sonic and play. The screen stayed black for a while after I picked Sonic. The game faded in, and Sonic was in a black room. I was really scratching my head over this one. I ran around the room for a while and jumped. The room seemed endless, as I could run forever in one direction. I thought the game might have started up on a glitch. I was about to stop playing and restart, when Sonic started falling and yelling. He fell for a few seconds and hit something. When Sonic collided with the object, a hole opened up in his chest and blood started spewing out, followed by some intense screaming. My mind was beginning to wonder if I should be playing this. The game loaded back up to the character selection screen, and I picked Tails since Sonic had spikes through him and was hanging there on them. The game loaded up in the same room. I expected the same thing to happen, But Tails didn't get the same treatment. I heard running water and static electricity. The Tails started swimming, and then a few minutes later, started acting like he was getting electrocuted. After the animation was done of Tails getting electrocuted, he simply went limp and started to fall. The game went back to the character selection screen. I was kind of reluctant to continue, but I did anyways. Sonic was still hanging on his spikes dead. Tails was now laying on the ground with blood coming out of his nose. Knuckles was next. I picked Knuckles, and yet again the same room loaded up. I found a wall in this room. Although still black, I could see nothing but the character. I decided to climb up this wall and see where it led. I climbed up the wall for a little while, and then Knuckles decided he was just going to let go and start flying in the other direction. He flew right into something that made him explode into a bloody mess. I had a Keanu Reeves reaction at that point, but assuredly, I was surprised. The selection screen came back up, and Knuckles wasn't even on it. Amy was the last one I could choose. I picked her, and something else happened. I actually got a visual room on this one. Amy loaded up in a strange, darkly lit room that looked like Egyptian ruins. I ran through it, and found out it was just a really long hallway. I kept running, and saw something off in the distance. The hallway came out to this very large black room with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles standing in the middle in a circle formation. At this point, all the lights went out. All the characters disappeared. A few seconds later, Sonic popped up with a horrible scowl on his face. "Amy, you better run before we catch you," Sonic said. The game then put me back in the hallway, but this time there was blood all over the walls. I started running through the hallway as fast as Amy could go. I ran for about 5 minutes. I stopped and turned around. Sonic was still behind me, and he caught up. I saw right before he stabbed Amy that he had a knife and no face. The game faded back in, and Amy was in the hallway again. But there was a bunch of dead Amys lining the wall, and they were all nailed up there. I ran for about 10 minutes this time, and stopped and turned around to see Tails jump on Amy and bite her head open. The game faded out, and then in again. This time I guess I was being chased by Knuckles. I told myself I was going to make it to 20 minutes this time, so I ran for about 20 minutes, and I got tired of it. I figured that there was no getting away from them. Nothing changed from when Tails killed Amy. I ran down the same hallway. I ran for about a minute when Amy came out of the hallway into that room that looked like a shrine for some Egyptian god. I walked around the room for a few seconds, and the lights went out. They flickered back on, and all three of them were standing there dead. They all jumped on Amy and the screen went black. When the screen blackened, I heard Amy scream as hard as she could. The scream pierced my soul. The black screen flickered a few times, and then a game over written in bloody font came up on the screen, which faded to Amy standing there in a black room with her eyes missing. She giggled and twirled as Sonic ran up. He looked at the screen and said in a demonic voice,
"Are you ready for the next adventure?"
The screen went black again, and all I could hear was Sonic and Amy laughing maniacally. By this time, the game was over. I was highly disturbed. The game started back over, and the beginning cutscene started back up. I hit the button on my Dreamcast to turn it off, and was denied. The Dreamcast went off